What if I told you that your obsession with pushing harder, your relentless grind, the sleepless nights staring at charts, the refusal to take a break, is the very thing sabotaging your performance as a trader? You've been sold a myth: hustle culture, rise and grind, sleep when you're dead. These slogans sound inspiring, but they're killing your edge. In Peak Performance, Stulberg and Magness reveal a truth the trading world often ignores. Always pushing isn't a strength, it's a liability. Let's put this in trading terms. You're on a 12-day losing streak. You tell yourself, I need to trade through this. I'll grind my way out. But your decision-making is eroding. Your setups aren't clean. Your judgment is clouded. You're not evaluating your edge. You're reacting. And what feels like resilience is actually desperation. This is the hidden cost of always pushing. Diminished returns, subtle mental fatigue, and a slow death of your performance precision. The authors point to elite athletes and top creatives, people whose jobs demand high output. The ones who truly sustain greatness don't push 24/7. They oscillate. They sprint, then recover. They stress the system, then allow time for adaptation. You, as a trader, are no different. Your edge is your mind, and your mind needs rhythm. Stulberg calls this the growth equation. Stress plus rest will growth. But here's the kicker. Most traders delete rest from the formula entirely. That's not performance. That's burnout on a delay. You need to understand the neurological cost of constant engagement. Cognitive fatigue doesn't just make you tired. It impairs your ability to adapt to change, recognize patterns, and manage risk. The very skills you rely on to perform get dulled. Ever noticed how you start revenge trading after 5 hours glued to your screen? That's your brain crying out for rest, and you mistaking it for grinding harder. In the book, they cite research from Stanford and the US Navy SEALs. The best don't just push through pain. They recognize fatigue as feedback. They back off, reassess, and come back sharper. This is what most amateur traders get wrong. They idolize effort but neglect recovery. But true peak performers, they train like the elite. They don't just go hard, they go smart. And it's not just physical rest. It's psychological detachment. You need time away from the charts. Time where your brain can unconsciously process information. Just like a muscle needs time to repair after a lift, your cognitive systems require time to consolidate, recalibrate, and strengthen. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you intentionally scheduled rest into your trading routine? Brad Stulberg delivers a key insight. We are not machines. We are complex biological systems. And like any system, we break when pushed beyond our capacity without recovery. That quote should be on your desktop, because in trading, the temptation to be on 24/7 is ever present. You feel guilty for resting. You fear missing setups. But in truth, it's your refusal to rest that's silently costing you consistency. Compare this with what Mark Douglas teaches in Trading in the Zone, how your beliefs and mindset control your trading outcomes. You might believe that pushing harder leads to better results, but this belief is flawed. It leads to overtrading, decision fatigue, and burnout. Instead, you need to believe that smart pacing, that structured recovery, is how consistency is built. Think of it like this. Your job isn't to catch every move. Your job is to be present, focused, and calibrated when it matters most. That means taking time away to ensure when you're in the game, you're truly locked in. You don't need more hustle. You need higher quality hustle. Precision, not pressure. In The Mental Game of Trading, Jared Tendler speaks about the inching effect, how tiny lapses in discipline slowly creep in unnoticed. These are often caused by fatigue. When you're worn down, your guard lowers. You click without thinking. You move stops emotionally. You break rules you wrote yourself. And yet you blame your strategy, not your biology. Let's get brutally honest here. Most traders aren't failing because they lack strategy. They're failing because they lack self-regulation. And that begins with understanding how pushing too hard without pause is a psychological trap dressed as dedication. So what can you do today? First, schedule rest as aggressively as you schedule trades. Block out time to detach from screens. Build rituals for recovery: walking, reading, exercising, meditating. Make rest active. Second, track your energy, not just your trades. Start noting how you feel before, during, and after trading. Begin to notice the patterns between energy management and performance. Third, stop glorifying overwork. Elite traders, just like elite athletes, optimize for sustainability, not intensity. You want to win the long game? Then start respecting your limits. In summary, the message is clear. The grind is not your edge. Sustainability is. If you keep burning the candle at both ends, don't be surprised when you wake up one day without a wick left to light. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And it's the foundation of every peak performer who plays for keeps. Waiting for continue. Part 2. You've been taught to tolerate stress, but no one ever taught you to value rest. And in trading, that's not just an oversight, it's a fatal flaw. Stress alone doesn't make you better. That's the myth most traders fall into. You hit a drawdown, and instead of pausing, you double your screen time. You add more indicators, you increase your size, you overanalyze every candle. But without rest, stress doesn't lead to growth. It leads to deterioration. That's the fundamental formula from peak performance. Stress plus rest equals growth. This is not a metaphor. It's physiology, it's psychology, it's neuroscience. Every system in your body and brain follows this equation. When you apply pressure on your muscles, on your attention span, on your decision-making, you create microdamage. Recovery is where the repair and adaptation happens. Without it, damage accumulates. And when damage accumulates in trading, it shows up as sloppiness, tilt, and eventually, total burnout. Traders love the stress part. They romanticize it. They tell themselves that more stress equals more edge. But Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness make one thing painfully clear. Stress without rest is simply trauma. It's breakdown disguised as commitment. Let's translate this to a typical trading scenario. You're in the zone Monday and Tuesday, executing clean. By Wednesday, your edge feels a little shaky. By Thursday, you're second-guessing every entry. By Friday, you're revenge trading. What happened? You didn't rest. You thought 5 days of cognitive demand wouldn't have a cost. But you're not a machine. Your brain is an energy budget. And by Friday, you're bankrupt. Research cited in Peak Performance shows that after 90 to 120 minutes of deep mental work, cognitive efficiency begins to drop rapidly. Traders, meanwhile, are trying to sit in front of the screen for 6 to 10 hours with no real break, as if willpower is infinite. It's not. And when it runs out, you start trading emotionally. Let's revisit what elite performers do. Olympic athletes build recovery into their training. Top writers take long walks after focused writing sessions. World-class performers obey the same rhythm. Stress, rest, grow. So why do traders think they're the exception? Jared Tendler talks about mental capital, a limited resource you spend with every trade decision, every risk management choice, every second spent watching price. The more you spend without recovery, the less discipline you have. The result, you start breaking rules you swore you'd follow. Rest isn't laziness, it's leverage. One powerful idea in the book is that rest improves adaptation. When you rest, your mind has time to unconsciously process feedback, to update its models, to internalize what worked and what didn't. This is called consolidation. Without rest, you skip consolidation. You don't grow, you just repeat. Now, here's where most traders go wrong. They don't know how to rest well. They binge YouTube, they scroll Twitter, they doom scroll through economic news thinking they're learning. That's not rest. That's low-quality stimulation. You need real recovery. Sleep, movement, nature, play, silence. You need moments of psychological detachment where you're not just away from trading, you're free from it. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come during a walk, a shower, or on vacation? That's not random. That's your brain doing diffuse mode processing, a scientifically studied state where complex problems are unconsciously sorted out. But that state only activates when you stop obsessing. Peak performers use this to their advantage. You should too. Let's put this into action. Build recovery blocks into your trading plan. For every hour of high-intensity trading, schedule 10 to 15 minutes of detachment. Use timers if you have to. Walk away. Breathe. Reset your nervous system. And on a macro level, respect your weeks. Don't trade every session. Don't chase every market. Take scheduled days off. Not because you're weak, but because you want to be strong longer. Compare this to what Mike Bellafiore pushes in One Good Trade. Performance isn't about grinding harder. It's about doing fewer things better. Quality over quantity. Precision over pressure. And the only way you can stay precise is by recovering before precision disappears. Stulberg writes, recovery is not a sign that you're slacking. It's a sign that you respect the process of growth. Traders who ignore this spiral, They become addicted to activity. But peak performers, they choose stillness when it matters most. Rest also rewires your nervous system. You can't expect to execute calmly under pressure if your system is constantly in fight or flight. Parasympathetic activation, breathing, nature, meditation isn't just for monks. It's for traders who want to stop overreacting to every red candle. In trading, the cost of fatigue is exponential. One small mistake can cascade, and the antidote isn't more information. It's strategic disengagement. So what can you do today? Audit your routines. Identify moments of actual rest versus mindless distraction. Commit to real recovery rituals, daily, weekly, monthly. Then apply the rule. Every unit of stress must be paired with a unit of rest. Write it on a Post-it. Tape it to your monitor. Make it your mantra. Because the truth is this: growth isn't linear. It's cyclical. Stress expands your potential. Rest unlocks it. This is the math of greatness. And in trading, where burnout hides behind every green streak, it may be the one formula that saves your career. Waiting for continue. Part 3. You've been told to follow your passion, but when you're risking real money, passion alone becomes a dangerous compass. In Peak Performance, Stulberg and Magness tear into the myth that passion is the ultimate fuel. Instead, they argue that purpose, a deeper, more sustainable driver, is what elevates performance and protects it from burnout. This distinction is critical for traders. Think back. How did you start trading? Maybe you were drawn to the freedom, the independence, the thrill of reading the market like a code. You were passionate. But passion is volatile. It flares hot and burns fast. When passion collides with the inevitable drawdowns, self-doubt, and plateaus in growth, it doesn't hold up. Passion can betray you. It convinces you to overtrade to prove something. It tempts you to abandon your rules for the thrill of being right. Passion screams, "Take the setup." You feel it. Purpose whispers, "Does this align with who you are as a trader?" Brad and Steve put it bluntly. Passion without purpose becomes ego. You begin to tie your identity to outcomes. Green days make you feel unstoppable. Red days crush your self-worth. This is a psychological trap. It's emotional trading in disguise. Purpose, on the other hand, is a stabilizing force. It's what grounds you when the market disrespects your expectations. When you root your actions in purpose, your trading isn't about proving yourself. It's about expressing who you are. You're not reacting to every tick. You're executing a mission. Let's be clear. Purpose doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you start caring about the right things. Instead of obsessing over profit, you shift to mastery. Instead of needing validation from others, you validate your discipline, your growth, your process. You begin to detach from outcome and anchor into effort. This is exactly what Mark Douglas emphasized in Trading in the Zone. You don't control the outcome. You control your behavior. And when your behavior is aligned with purpose, the noise fades. You no longer need every trade to win. You need every trade to reflect your principles. In the book, the authors profile elite athletes who use their sport to serve something beyond themselves: family, legacy, team. In trading, this could be about providing for loved ones, building a future of freedom, modeling self-discipline for your kids. It could be about proving to yourself that you can evolve. But here's the key. It has to be bigger than the P&L. Traders driven by purpose survive storms. Those driven by passion alone get wrecked by the first big wave. Jared Tendler talks about the difference between surface-level motivation and true confidence. Purpose is where true confidence grows, because it's not about what happened today. It's about what you're building long-term. It's about your why. Mike Bellafiore writes in The Playbook, "It's the traders who tie their performance to personal development who last the longest." Purpose allows you to see your trading as a path, not just a scoreboard. When you start every session with purpose, something changes. You're not trying to prove you're a genius. You're trying to grow into someone who performs with consistency. That shift kills ego. It silences urgency. It replaces fear with focus. Here's how you can find your trading purpose. 1. Write it down. Why are you really trading? What are you trying to achieve beyond money? 2. Review it daily. Especially on losing days, read it before you review your charts. 3. Filter decisions through it. Does this trade move you closer to your purpose or away from it? This is identity-based trading, not outcome-based trading, and it creates emotional resilience. Brad and Steve describe purpose as a source of sustainable motivation. It's what allows you to show up consistently, especially when you don't feel like it, because you're not waiting to feel passion. You're led by commitment. In practice, purpose-driven traders act differently. They take fewer but higher quality trades. They review mistakes without self-hate. They trade to reinforce process, not ego. They understand that the market doesn't owe them anything. And yet, they show up every day, not because of passion alone, but because their purpose demands it. One powerful idea from the book is the Japanese concept of ikigai, your reason for being. When your trading aligns with your ikigai, discipline becomes devotion. Consistency becomes self-expression. Passion is what gets you into trading. Purpose is what keeps you in the game. So today, ask yourself, are you here to win a trade or to build something meaningful? Are you trading from impulse or from intent? If passion is the fire, purpose is the furnace. And if you want to perform at your peak, the furnace has to be strong enough to outlast every market storm. Waiting for continue. Part 4. Markets are unpredictable, but your behavior shouldn't be. If your process changes with every new trading idea, if your rules bend with every impulse, you're not trading, you're gambling. In Peak Performance, Stulberg and Magness emphasize one truth that applies to both elite athletes and traders. Routines build consistency, and consistency builds results. This is the backbone of sustained excellence. Let's be real. Most traders fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they lack structure. They approach trading emotionally, letting wins inflate their confidence and losses wreck their discipline. One green day and they feel like gods. One red day and they rewrite their playbook. This inconsistency is death in the markets. You can't grow if your behavior is erratic. And that's why routines matter. They remove emotion from the equation. They create a baseline, a controlled rhythm for your performance to ride on. Stulberg and Magness write that routine frees mental bandwidth for higher order thinking. When you don't waste energy deciding when to wake up, when to review trades, how to prepare, you reserve that energy for execution and reflection. In trading, that's your edge. Imagine two traders. One rolls out of bed, scans Twitter, opens 5 charts, and starts trading. The other has a morning ritual, meditation, market prep, journaling. The second trader hasn't even placed a trade yet, but they're already winning. Why? Because their mind is primed, their body is regulated, their focus is intentional. Peak performance is never an accident, it's engineered. Brad and Steve refer to routines as anchors. In volatile environments, you need something to stabilize you. The market is chaos. Your mind doesn't have to be. A routine gives you clarity amid noise. It separates you from the randomness of price action and reconnects you with your internal compass. Compare that with what Mike Bellafiore calls a daily report card. It's not just what you trade, it's how you prepare, how you recover, how you show up. Routines make these metrics trackable. They turn vague ideas like discipline and focus into observable behaviors. Now, here's what most traders miss. A good routine isn't complex. It's repeatable. It's intentional. It includes 3 elements: preparation, execution, and recovery. Preparation might look like reviewing yesterday's trades, visualizing your ideal execution, or reading your journal affirmations. Execution involves sticking to rules, minimizing distractions, using tools like timers or breath cues to stay present. Recovery is the neglected pillar, debriefing after your session, logging insights, stepping away to reset your nervous system. Brad and Steve warn against decision fatigue, a slow killer of performance. Every unstructured choice, what to eat, when to review, how to enter a trade, costs mental energy. Routines automate these decisions. They let you conserve focus for what truly matters, execution under pressure. Jared Tendler echoes this in The Mental Game of Trading. He says the best traders don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Systems remove willpower from the equation. You don't feel like trading. You just follow your protocol. If you're serious about improving, start treating your day like an elite performer. Build a trading routine and treat it as sacred. Don't modify it based on how you feel. Modify it only based on what the data shows. Start small, a 3-step pre-market checklist, a 15-minute journaling block post-trade, a 5-breath reset after every execution. Then stack it, repeat it, refine it. Your routine should eventually feel like a launch pad. Not a chore, but a cue. a signal that it's time to lock in, perform, and then step away. Let's ground this with a quote from the book. Structure creates freedom. That sounds like a paradox, but it's not. When your trading life is structured, you don't waste energy second guessing. You flow, you adapt, because your foundation is solid. Think about the last time you deviated from your routine. Did your performance improve, or did your emotions take over? The answer is usually obvious in hindsight, but routines help prevent the missteps before they happen. Elite performers don't chase variety, they chase precision, and precision is a product of repeatability. So what's your system? Write it out. Wake up time, prep time, trade time, wind down time, rituals before you click, questions you ask before you enter, review prompts you reflect on after the bell. Make it yours, but make it repeatable. Because in the chaos of the market, your routine is the only certainty you control. Waiting for continue. Part 5. You don't become a peak performer by doing more. You become one by becoming more. And in trading, that means shifting from doing trades to being a trader. In Peak Performance, Brad and Steve break down a critical concept: identity-based performance. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your systems are built on who you believe you are. You might think, I want to be a consistent trader. But do you see yourself as one? Do your habits reflect that identity? Because if they don't, the market will expose the gap brutally. This is where most traders break down. They focus on outcomes, wanting to hit a daily target, wanting to grow an account, without aligning their identity with what consistency demands. Brad and Steve explain how elite performers embed their identity into their craft. They don't try to perform, they live it. They act like pros even on bad days, even when motivation is absent, because identity isn't reactive. It's chosen. It's reinforced by ritual, behavior, and mindset. Let's bring it to your desk. A performance trader doesn't say, I hope I don't break rules today. They say, I'm the kind of trader who follows rules, period. That belief system changes everything. It reframes effort as identity. And when you view every trade, every journal entry, every pause for breath as a vote for who you want to become, your execution starts to shift. In Atomic Habits, James Clear echoes this perfectly. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. Brad and Steve take that idea into the performance arena and show that greatness isn't just practice, it's embodied practice. You become your behavior. Think of it like this. Anyone can trade when the market is trending. But the trader who still reviews on Friday after a brutal week, who journals through the pain, who follows their risk plan despite fear, that's not just discipline, that's identity. You're no longer measuring how many wins you get. You're measuring how aligned your actions are with who you say you are. This goes hand in hand with Mark Douglas's concept of trading from a belief system. If your core belief is, I'm a disciplined, patient professional, your behavior flows from it. But if your belief is, I'm trying to get rich quick, guess what? You'll break down under stress. You'll chase. You'll tilt, because your actions are misaligned. Brad and Steve share the story of a runner who improved not by pushing harder, but by reframing his self-image. He stopped seeing himself as someone who wanted to run fast and started seeing himself as someone who was built for consistency. That mental shift created behavioral resilience. The same is true in trading. Your goal isn't to act like a trader. Your goal is to become one, to build an identity that can hold under pressure. An identity is built in moments of choice. When you size down after a loss, when you walk away after a win, when you pause before you click. These are votes for your future self, for the trader you claim to be. In The Mental Game of Trading, Tendler talks about the mental hand history, how past habits, beliefs, and self-perceptions influence current performance. Identity-based trading lets you rewrite that history. You stop being defined by your past mistakes. You start becoming defined by the consistency of your present choices. So here's the challenge. Craft your trading identity. Write it out. Use I am statements. Be specific. I am a process-driven trader who executes with clarity and discipline. I am someone who values patience over prediction. I am a peak performer in the markets, and I train like one. These aren't affirmations. They're standards. Review them. Live them. And every time you break your rules, ask, was that who I am or who I used to be? Because here's the brutal truth. You don't rise to the market's potential. You rise or fall to your own standard of identity. Brad and Steve call this the foundation of sustainable greatness. When your identity is locked in, the world can shake and your behavior holds. So today, stop trying to trade like someone else. Stop mimicking others' setups. Build the habits and systems that reflect you, your edge, your values, your vision. Because in this game, consistency is not just execution, it's embodiment. You don't just do trading, you become the trader. Waiting for continue. Part 6. You think progress should feel smooth, predictable, linear. But the truth? Real growth is messy, it's chaotic. And in trading, that's exactly where your breakthrough hides. In Peak Performance, Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness dismantle the myth of linear progression. They show that elite performers don't improve in straight lines. They grow in cycles through resistance, setbacks, and disorder. And if you expect perfection in your trading path, you're setting yourself up for frustration and failure. Here's how it usually looks. You find a strategy, journal your trades, feel in control. Then, a string of red days hits. Suddenly, doubt floods in. You question everything. You feel like you're regressing. But what if that dip is part of your climb? Brad and Steve refer to this as the messy middle, the uncomfortable, uncertain space where mastery is actually forged. It's the phase most traders abandon. But if you stick through the mess, you don't just recover, you evolve. Let's go deeper. Growth doesn't come from flawless execution. It comes from stress, challenge, and friction. And in trading, those look like slippage, emotional reactions, broken rules. Painful, yes, but also feedback-rich. Most traders mislabel this phase. They call it failure. But the best traders know it's data. Think about how athletes train. They deliberately expose themselves to high-stress situations to build adaptation. They push into their discomfort zones. Why? Because that's where adaptation occurs. You don't improve by staying in the comfort of wins. You improve by analyzing your worst trades without denial. This aligns with what Jared Tendler describes as inching toward resolution. You don't eliminate problems in one step. You chip away, inch by inch, through conscious reflection, through repeated exposure, through keeping your head in the game even when everything screams at you to quit. In trading, setbacks are not signs that you're failing. They're signals that you're building mental and emotional capacity. Brad and Steve share a powerful truth. Disruption is essential for adaptation. If your trading journey feels uncomfortable, chaotic, even discouraging, you're probably doing it right. Because without disruption, there's no reorganization of behavior, no mental rewiring, no edge evolution. Mark Douglas emphasized the importance of not interpreting every trade result emotionally. You might lose 5 times in a row, and it means nothing if you followed your edge. But if you treat that as a verdict on your worth, you kill your progress. Instead, treat turbulence as a training ground. A 3% drawdown isn't the enemy. It's the opportunity. A blown stop isn't the end. It's a mirror. What behavior led to it? What pattern can you break next time? This approach takes emotional maturity. It requires separating the pain of loss from the value of learning. That's what the best performers do. They detach emotionally, engage behaviorally. Brad and Steve also warn against premature optimization. That urge to tweak your system after every bad day? That's fear disguised as refinement. Growth doesn't happen when you change everything. It happens when you sit with discomfort and let it teach you. You have to earn your evolution, and that means making peace with plateaus. Growth pauses. Skill development stalls. That's not failure. It's integration. Just like a body needs time after a hard workout, your mind needs time to digest what it's learned. Don't force your way through it. Trust it. Here's what you can do today. 1. Reframe setbacks. Write down what they taught you, not what they cost you. 2. Track emotional trends, not just price patterns. What triggers you? When do you feel most reactive? 3. Name the phase. Are you in growth, plateau, recovery? Labeling removes the mystery. 4. Respect the chaos. Stop looking for clarity in every moment. It's not linear. It's not supposed to be. Brad and Steve's message is simple. Embrace the mess. Stop needing to feel good to be doing good. Start understanding that your most frustrating days may be the most productive because they show you where your edge is truly tested. Jared Tendler would call this emotional volatility exposure. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more your tolerance grows. And over time, that tolerance becomes confidence, not because you've eliminated chaos, but because you've learned to stand inside it. Trading is not a straight climb, it's a jagged path. The goal isn't to avoid the dips, it's to master how you move through them. So next time the fog rolls in, the rules feel harder to follow, and every part of you wants to abandon the plan. Remember this: you are not broken, you are breaking through. Waiting for continue. Part 7, comparison, is the thief of clarity. And in trading, where the scoreboard updates every second, it's easy to fall into the trap of measuring your worth against others. But that trap will steal your edge. In Peak Performance, Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness call out the hidden toxicity of constant competition, not just against others, but against yourself. They explain how social comparison, when unchecked, can destroy internal focus and pull performers away from their true goals. For traders, this insight is game-changing. You've seen it before. You're having a decent day. Then you check Twitter. Someone's up $8,000 trading the same ticker you just lost on. Your mood shifts. Your focus scatters. Now you're no longer trading your plan. You're trading your insecurity. Comparison hijacks your psychology. It turns your trading journal into a scoreboard. It turns your curiosity into self-doubt. It replaces process with performance anxiety. And in the worst cases, it leads you to abandon your edge in pursuit of someone else's. This is not discipline. This is desperation. Brad and Steve introduce a powerful framework: internal versus external scorecards. The best performers operate from internal scorecards. They ask, did I follow my process? Did I execute with intent? Did I grow today? Amateurs run on external scorecards. What did I make today? How do I stack up? What's my win rate compared to others? Let's be clear, external benchmarks have a role, but when they become your compass, you lose your internal GPS. And in trading, without internal direction, the market will eat you alive. Mark Douglas said it best: you don't need to know what's going to happen next to make money. But when you're constantly comparing, your brain demands certainty. You stop managing risk and start chasing outcomes. Social media amplifies this trap. It feeds the illusion that everyone is printing money but you, that other traders are smarter, faster, more in control. But here's the truth: most of what you see is curated. And even when it's real, it's irrelevant, because they're not you. They don't have your risk tolerance, your psychology, your emotional wiring. Trading isn't about copying, it's about customizing. You win by building a process that fits you. Brad and Steve emphasize that sustainable greatness is built on autonomy. The more you internalize your standards, the more resilient you become to the noise. Compare that to what Jared Tendler describes as performance interference. When you bring outside pressure into your sessions, your mental bandwidth shrinks. You second-guess your setups, you hesitate, you force trades, all because your mind is consumed by someone else's results. You stop seeing the market clearly and start seeing it through the lens of competition. The solution? Cut the comparison loop. Here's how. 1. Limit exposure to performance porn. Mute traders who trigger envy. Unfollow feeds that spike your cortisol. 2. Define your own metrics. Track behavior, not just results. Did you stick to your risk? Did you execute your edge? 3. Audit your motives. Before entering a trade, ask, am I trading this because it fits my plan or because I want to prove something? 4. Return to process. Reread your journal. Re-anchor to your system. Your edge isn't out there. It's inside your own repeatable behaviors. Brad and Steve explain that greatness comes not from outperforming others, but from mastering yourself. When you chase external validation, you become emotionally reactive. But when you internalize your identity, you become consistent. This doesn't mean you can't learn from others. It means you learn without losing yourself. Mike Bellafiore talks about getting better every day. That's the only comparison that matters. You versus yesterday you. That's your real benchmark. And if you must compare routines, not results. Compare how others prepare, how they journal, how they bounce back. But never compare outcomes. Outcomes are noise. Process is signal. So today, reclaim your focus. Mute the noise. Stop looking left and right. Start looking inward. Because in the markets, your edge doesn't come from being better than others. It comes from being better than you were yesterday and staying grounded in your own performance blueprint. waiting for continue. Part 8. Your mental edge is your trading edge. And yet, most traders only train the external charts, setups, indicators, while completely ignoring the internal landscape, your focus, clarity, and ability to reset under pressure. In Peak Performance, Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness outline one of the most overlooked aspects of sustainable excellence, the cultivation of a quiet mind, a mind not reactive, not cluttered, but composed, especially in high-stakes moments. And for traders, this is where long-term consistency is born. Let's be honest. You've probably had days where you nailed the setup but still lost money. Why? Because you hesitated, or you jumped in late, or you moved your stop in fear. These aren't technical errors, they're psychological malfunctions. The problem isn't the market. The problem is your mental clutter and your inability to return to stillness after a jolt. Brad and Steve emphasize that performance is about toggling between high intensity and deep recovery. Just like a sprinter doesn't run back-to-back 100-meter races without rest, you shouldn't be living in constant mental arousal. And yet, that's what most traders do, especially during volatile sessions. You're overstimulated, under-recovered, and trapped in a feedback loop of reaction. The result? Your prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for planning, emotional control, and decision-making, shuts down. You start trading from impulse, not logic. This is why they advocate for mindfulness, breathwork, and recovery rituals, not as luxuries, but as core performance tools. Let's look at what this means practically. Before you trade, start with a 2-minute breathing practice. Inhale for 4 counts, exhale for 6. This downregulates your nervous system. It tells your brain, I am safe, I am calm, I am focused. During trading, use reset cues. These are pre-scripted triggers like touching your mouse and saying execute clean or stepping away for a 5-minute walk after a loss. These rituals break the tilt cycle before it gains momentum. After trading, don't just analyze your performance, decompress. That means putting your phone away, getting outside, processing emotions without judgment. This isn't fluff, this is neuroscience. Brad and Steve cite research that shows how even brief mindfulness practices improve attention regulation, reduce performance anxiety, and enhance self-awareness. All key traits for trading success. Jared Tendler calls this mental conditioning. You don't control your thoughts, but you can train your responses. And the more you train stillness, the more capacity you have to handle chaos without falling apart. Compare this to what Mark Douglas described as being in the zone. Traders think the zone is magic. It's not. It's a byproduct of preparation, presence, and inner stillness. You don't chase the zone, you create it. Mike Bellafiore talks about elite trader mindset being grounded in consistency, not emotion. And consistency can't exist without psychological clarity. Your brain can't execute with precision when it's fogged by anxiety, anger, or noise. This is why your daily routine must include internal training. Just as you backtest systems or analyze metrics, you must train your focus. Here's how. 1. Start your day without a screen. Let your brain wake up in peace, not in reaction. 2. Use breath as your anchor. Before every trade, center yourself. One breath can shift your entire state. 3. Create a transition ritual. When trading ends, shut the book. Separate your identity from the outcome. You're not your P&L. 4. Protect your inputs. Too much news, noise, and commentary breeds mental chaos. Curate your environment. This is the mental hygiene of peak performers. Brad and Steve note that quiet minds are not born, they're built. And the building happens through intention, repetition, and respect for recovery. Your greatest tool in trading is not your strategy, it's your state. Because even the best edge in the hands of an unfocused, emotionally hijacked trader becomes worthless. But in the hands of someone calm, present, and mentally clear, it becomes a weapon. Waiting for continue. Part 9. The market doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't reward desire. It rewards execution. And if your definition of success is still tied to outcomes, like P&L, win rate, or follower count, you're playing a losing game. Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness hit this point hard in Peak Performance. True success is process-driven, not result-driven. It's about consistent action, not constant achievement. For traders, this distinction is life-changing. Let's break it down. Most traders say they want to be consistent, but what they actually chase is money. They judge success by how much they made today, this week, this month. And when the money isn't there, even if they followed their plan, they feel like failures. But that mindset is backwards. Brad and Steve explain that peak performers redefine success in behavioral terms. Did I do the work? Did I show up with intention? Did I stick to my system under pressure? That's success. Period. Outcomes fluctuate. Behavior doesn't have to. Mark Douglas said, anything can happen. That's not a warning. It's freedom. If anything can happen, then one trade, one session, 1 week doesn't define you. Only your process does. Here's a truth you have to accept. You can do everything right and still lose. That's not failure. That's trading. And when you finally detach your self-worth from your results, everything changes. You stop forcing setups. You stop measuring your value by numbers. You start acting like a professional, one who executes with clarity regardless of outcome. Brad and Steve write about the concept of process orientation, the mindset of elite performers who measure success by inputs, not results. It's the Olympic athlete who doesn't obsess over medals, but over daily reps. It's the trader who doesn't obsess over green days, but over following their edge. This isn't passive. It's power. Because when your mind is process-oriented, you're free. Free to lose without shame. Free to win without ego. Free to improve without emotional sabotage. Compare that to the trader addicted to P&L. They're manic. One win and they feel untouchable. One loss and they spiral. Their identity is attached to outcomes, and so their confidence is always fragile. Mike Bellafiore teaches traders to focus on getting better every day. That principle only works when you shift your definition of better away from results and toward behavior. You're not trying to beat the market. You're trying to beat your former self. Here's how to make that shift. 1. Journal behavior, not just results. Did you follow rules? Manage risk? Stay emotionally neutral? 2. Score your execution. Use a 1 to 10 scale for things like focus, patience, discipline. 3. Celebrate process wins. Exited on time? Great. Walked away after a loss? Win. These count more than green candles. 4. Review performance over weeks, not days. Zoom out, see trends, trust time. Brad and Steve explain that process focus builds grit, the capacity to persist even when results don't reinforce you. Because let's face it, trading has long stretches where outcomes make no sense. But your process? That's your lifeline. Jared Tendler echoes this when he writes that emotional stability comes from knowing you're doing the right things, even when you're not getting immediate payoff. You have to play a longer game. Redefine success as doing your job well, regardless of outcome. Make that your identity, and then reinforce it every day with every trade, every journal entry, every act of discipline. Because if you only feel good when you're green, your psychology is fragile. But if you feel proud when you've executed with integrity, no market condition can shake you. That's what Brad and Steve mean by sustainable excellence. It's not sexy, it's not flashy, but it's real, and it's yours if you're willing to build your performance around process, not profit. Part 10. You've been taught to sprint, to go hard, to rise fast. But Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness argue that true greatness isn't just speed, it's sustainability. And in trading, this mindset shift changes everything. In Peak Performance, the authors lay out the case for longevity. They show that the highest achievers across disciplines, from athletes to CEOs to creatives, aren't just those who shine bright for a moment. They're the ones who last, who stay sharp, who sustain peak output without breaking. What does that mean for you? It means stop glorifying burnout. Stop thinking that intensity equals success. It means stop trying to win trading in a month, because the real game is years long, decades long. And the prize isn't the biggest P&L spike. It's the ability to keep showing up, focused, composed, and consistent. Brad and Steve call this sustainable excellence. It's not about going hard every day. It's about going smart every year. This is where most traders fail. They overtrain, they overstress, they overstimulate, and when the crash comes, they don't have the habits or health to recover. They disappear. Let's be real. What's the point of a 100K month if it ends in emotional collapse? What good is a green streak if you destroy your sleep, your relationships, your health? That's not performance. That's a countdown to burnout. Peak performers understand this. They design lives that support their output. They create space for recovery. They treat the whole system, mind-body routine as part of their edge. Brad and Steve offer a performance triangle, stress plus rest routine. You train hard, you recover deeply, and you stay anchored in sustainable rhythm. That applies perfectly to trading. You have periods of intense focus, open, high volatility sessions, key news plays. That's your stress. Then you must build in rest, walks, workouts, disconnection. And finally, you rely on routine, your journal, your pre-market checklist, your nightly review. Without all three, you break. Jared Tendler has a term for this, training your emotional system. That system is not infinite. It gets taxed. And if you keep asking more from it without refueling, it shuts down. So, how do you design for sustainability? 1. Cycle your intensity. Plan lighter weeks. Reduce screen time during drawdowns. Protect your energy. 2. Monitor your burnout indicators. Sleep, mood, attention span. If they drop, you're overcooked. 3. Treat recovery as part of performance. Meditation, sleep, play, movement. These aren't breaks. They're fuel. 4. Rebuild in the off-season. Take full breaks. Disconnect from markets. Let your nervous system reset. This isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Because if you burn out, you don't just lose a trade. You lose time, momentum, identity. The best traders optimize for longevity. Mark Douglas taught that confidence is built over time, and time only serves you if you're still in the game. So build for the long haul. Don't be the trader who flashes and fades. Be the one who endures, who adapts, who evolves. Not for the dopamine hit of one perfect trade, but for the satisfaction of years of execution mastery. Brad and Steve close their book with a truth that every trader needs to tattoo on their mindset. The path to greatness is not a mad dash. It's a lifelong pursuit. So pursue wisely. Waiting for continue. Trading isn't just about finding the best setup. It's about building the best self. Through Peak Performance, Brad Stulberg and Steve Magness deliver a blueprint for sustainable mastery that applies directly to your trading life. You've learned that real growth is messy, that rest fuels resilience, that comparison kills clarity, and that behavior, not outcomes, is the truest measure of success. You now understand the cost of chasing wins at the expense of well-being and how long-term excellence is built on rhythms, rituals, and recovery. You've been shown how to build internal scorecards, how to embrace the chaos, and how to treat setbacks as signals, not failures. As a trader, this book isn't just theory, it's a call to action. Start with the section that hits your biggest weakness. Is it emotional recovery, discipline under pressure, chasing outcomes? Wherever you feel resistance, that's your edge. Apply the tools, live the process. Redefine your scoreboard. If this breakdown helped, like the video, drop a comment on which part you're applying today, and subscribe for more trading psychology insights from the top performance books out there. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay in the game and keep leveling up. Let's build that peak performance together. Conclusion, word count, 200.